friend.
Welcome to Heavy Metal.
History.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. I sat down with Malcolm Pugh, the lead guitar player from the band Inferi, as well as A Loathing Requiem, and Malcolm's just been on all kinds of other records just as a guest soloist or guest musician or whatever. I kind of actually know him a little bit. I toured with him when he was in the band Enfold Darkness. We did a short tour together. He's also mutual friends with some of my old friends, Eric Weatherford from this band with Faith of Flames. So I kind of know Malcolm as an acquaintance in passing a little bit, so it was cool to actually get to sit down and talk to him. He talks about Inferi's new record, Revenant, which will be out late March, late April, I forget the exact date. And we kind of get into, just how he kept this band alive and what he's been doing over the 5 years since they put out their last record, and really get into where the band's at now and what the future holds, as well as his passion for metal and tech death as well, and like all those bands in that genre, and how he really tries to do something good for heavy metal with his label, the Artisan era, and really try to give back to bands and not be a shitty label like Victory Records or something like that. So Malcolm is a good dude. Revenant is going to be a fucking awesome album. They've already dropped a track, which I hope you guys have checked out. And I hope you'll get the album when it comes out. It's called Revenant. Yeah, that's all. And I hope you guys enjoy the episode. Go check us out on iTunes. Leave a review if you can. Go wherever you may find your podcast. And you can find everything at heavymetalhistorypodcast.com. And thanks for listening. Enjoy the episode. First of all, thank you for taking the time to do this. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
All right, so guys, joining me on this episode is Malcolm Pugh. He is the guitar player for the band Inferi. Is that how you say it correctly, right? Or Inferi?
Yeah. No, you got it first time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Malcolm's been in like a plethora of other projects, but they have a new album that's going to be out at the end of March, and he's going to be talking about that as well as a myriad of other topics. But the first thing we like to kind of talk about or start off with is what were kind of your influences that got you into metal, man? Like, what's that first record you remember getting hold of and being like, yep, this is it?
Oh, man. Those were back in the dark ages of, like, new metal. I think the first record that, like, turned me on to heavier music was, like, Korn, Follow the Leader.
Mm-hmm.
A buddy of mine, I think I was in like 7th grade or something. He just let me borrow the CD. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but ever since that point, I just progressed on from, from that to older Metallica. Mm-hmm. And then from that went on to metalcore and just kind of hardcore bands like, I don't know, like Shadows Fall and Poison the Well and stuff like that. And then I just worked my way up to more brutal shit to listen to. And
yeah, it always kind of starts out a little innocuous with a not so heavy band, and then especially for me too, it was always like, well, what's heavier and harder and faster than this that I can get into? And it just spirals out of control almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, my co-host who usually does this with me, he's not super into new metal, but that's kind of where he started out too. So we don't, as much as everybody wants to hate on new metal, we try to not hate on it too much, because it does have its place in kind of the history of the genre as much as everybody wants to like malign on it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it was I don't know. It was cool to be able to have that kind of access as a young kid, and then you know, just have that kind of drive within myself to, you know, find something else that like you know, needed to fill that void of heaviness, I suppose.
Yeah, especially around that time too. This is before like the internet was super prevalent, so
Yeah.
you still had to go buy CDs and stuff, right?
Yeah, you had to go buy CDs, and if a band didn't come to your town, you know, there's really no way for you to know about it. I mean, we still had internet and everything like that, but you know, when you're a young kid, sometimes you just don't have the outlets to research that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, usually either find stuff by like friends or maybe like I guess Headbangers Ball was still kind of around that time, the one with Jamie Josta.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I found a lot of my music back then, was like watching Headbangers Ball.
Oh yeah, for sure. I remember they put I can't remember which song it was, but it was Demu's like first big like huge song.
Yeah, oh man, that must have been off the Death Cult Armageddon CD, because that's when they kind of blew up. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing that and just being like, "What the fuck is this? You gotta get it."
Yeah, I think that's what that album too is like. What got me into like in them is man, what was the name of that song? I listened to it so many times.
Progenies.
That's it.
I can't
Progenies of the Great Apocalypse. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Then I realized later on that they were in CKY back in the day.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, from the album before, because I was like, man, this song is super fucking heavy on CKY. And then later, I found out it was Demu. So
That's hilarious. I'll have to go back and check that out.
yeah.
So, what age did you start playing guitar, man?
I want to say, well, I started playing bass in, I believe, 8th grade or 9th grade. So that was shit, man. Maybe 97.
Okay.
Or something like that, which makes me feel extraordinarily old. It was it's like 97 or 98 is when I started playing bass, and then shortly after I started playing guitar, I got my bass stolen from my house, and then just bought like $100 guitar off eBay, and never looked back. Yeah.
Did you take lessons, or are you like mostly self-taught?
I've never taken any lessons.
Damn.
So yeah, I just learned strictly from the internet and, you know, like music books or whatever.
So did you want to start playing guitar because of heavy metal, or like did you have other influences outside of that kind of like wanted you to play guitar?
No, man. It was basically, you know, I wanted to be like Korn and shit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I started playing bass, and you know, learning like, you know, Rage Against the Machine, and, you know, that era of heavy music, and it just kind of took form from that. You know, the sicker the riffs were, the more I wanted to get into it. You know, so I just kind of tried to learn as much as I could.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude, because you like looking at like your body of work here, like you have like 3 or 4 other bands that you've been in. You know, you got your Loathing Requiem, you were in Enfold Darkness, the Virulent Depravity. I mean, and the A Loathing Requiem stuff, you do that all on your own, right? Like nobody else.
Yeah.
Jesus.
On the first album, I ended up having AJ Lewandowski from he was in Enfold at the time. He did the bass because I was trying to get the album out at a certain time, and I didn't have the means to do it where I was. But yeah, it's all written. I write it all and do everything else. Yeah.
Does it feel I guess, kind of like the most creative thing for you to be able to control every aspect of the music in that sense?
Yeah, that's actually the most enjoyable part about it for me. There's really not a lot of outside input with it, and I get to explore, all ideas with no discrimination. So, I mean, that's a kind of a double-edged sword, because sometimes you get caught up in your own little world and you get lost. With me particularly, I get lost in technicality with A Loathing Requiem sometimes, which I'll try to change on the next one. But yeah, I mean, being able to explore, every aspect of, like, okay, I want the drum part to be specifically like this for this riff at this time. That's really what pleases me with that project the most, is note by note being able to orchestrate everything how I see it.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple other guys that do like kind of like the one man project thing, and they've kind of stressed the same thing, that it's like it's nice not having that outside interference, and it feels more comfortable to them to be able to kind of control every little thing.
Absolutely.
What's what kind of like when you're working on a Loathing Requiem record, like what do you have in mind as far as like writing goes for that project?
Well, it's starting to morph a little bit. When I first did A Loathing Requiem, like a lot of those riffs I was going to use for Inferi, but we went on a hiatus for a few years.
Yeah.
And I was in a band called Discreet back then, and I just needed an outlet for myself to write as much as I could in the more melodic vein. It's still technical and fast in the first album, so that was the whole point of it, was just to kind of fill the void of Inferi. And then as I progressed into the second record, I had so much material just laying around that was just progressively more technical. And that's kind of where my heart was a few years ago. It was just like, try to make extremely technical music, but also still hold melodic structures and tangible things that a listener could grab a hold of. And with the new one that I'm slowly working on at this point, I'm going for more of a, still technical as fuck, but more groove oriented, and I'm going to try to bring down the tempos just a little bit so I can open my horizons to newer textures and see where I can take it.
Yeah, I do remember when Inferi kind of went on hiatus, because I remember Weatherford was like talking up you guys like a whole lot. He was like, "Dude, you gotta fucking hear this. Like, just wait." And yeah, and then I remember hearing it, and then like, yeah, you guys kind of went away, and it was just like, damn, dude, like, I knew you were always busy doing something, so it was like, it doesn't matter if they go on hiatus or what. Like, Malcolm's always going to be doing something, and like. Is it your drive to kind of always make music is why you're always busy? Because, I mean, you've even done, like, a ton of guest spots on, like, first Fragment, and I remember that band Serpents, because my buddy Lou did vocals on one of their records, and, yeah, man, you've done so many, like, guest spots. Is it important to you to stay busy like that?
Yeah, definitely. Music is, like, it's definitely, like, a part of who I am. Without it, I get super depressed, and just like there's no point of living without it for me. So just how I've always been since day one of like getting my first instrument, is practically every day working on something towards it nonstop. And I like to think I'd always be that way.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me you put a lot of heart and drive into making this stuff, man. Like, you don't fuck around. You're very calculated and smart with the kind of music that you put out there.
yeah, it's definitely something, try to keep a standard for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to just, I don't want to release the same record twice as much as I can, so that whenever I'm writing something and I'm like, this is kind of, reminiscent of something I've done before or whatever, I try to like listen to different types of music or something that I can draw inspiration to change or evolve in some way. Like if you were to look at the entire discography that I've had bigger parts on, with songwriting, from like the first Inferi record, even till now to the new Inferi record with all the Loathing Requiem records in between and Discreet and whatnot. I mean, you can see an evolution that kind of just branches off in different trees or, different directions, but still cohesive, which is what I'm trying to go for.
I could definitely see that. Like, it's not, none of it's the same. Like, if anybody was to be like, oh, this all sounds the same, they're completely wrong. But there is still that same kind of cohesion within, like, the style as far as, like, the way it sounds, But, Loathing Requiem does not sound anything like Inferi to me. So, yeah, I can see the difference there and hear it. So how did some of these guest spots that you were on come about, like with First Fragment and Veil of Nath?
Well, with Veil, I've known those guys like since like the MySpace days.
Yeah.
And we become friends, over a long period of time. So I think it was just natural for them to hit me up and work together. They're all really great dudes. First Fragment kind of just hit me up out of the blue. And that, yeah, I enjoy their stuff, and the solo I did on it is one of the ones in particular that I'm really proud of for some reason.
Yeah.
It's just the way they orchestrated the parts and everything. I'm really happy with that. But yeah, a lot of times, it's mostly through friends, just working together.
I mean, it's got to be cool for you, man, to know that many people like want you to play on their stuff. It's even like the people I kind of know in the music scene, like when they know your name, they're like, "Oh yeah, Malcolm, like, dude, I would love to have him on something." So
yeah, sometimes I get overwhelmed sometimes, with trying to tack on more stuff, more tasks and everything like that, especially lately. But when I can do it, I try to do it as much as possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's important to get your name out as a musician and apart from your band. If you think about a lot of bands, a lot of people don't know the members in the band. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's very important to get yourself out as a musician, almost more so than your band, because the band will follow the name of yourself. That's how I think about it anyway.
Yeah, no, I was talking about this with my co-host one day, and we were like, yeah, man, do you remember like in the 80s when like you knew like Nuno Betancourt was in like Extreme and like you knew the guitar players, and nowadays it's like, well, who's the guitar player in this band? And it's just some dude, you don't know his name, you don't really like know what he's played on, and it's so different. I think you have like an excellent point with that frame of mind with that.
Yeah, and now with social media, it's more important than ever.
Yeah.
The people's brains are so oversaturated with everything. It's good to have a face that they can interact with and be a part of something, as opposed to just like, oh, I like this band. Whereas with me, they can be like, oh, he talks to me every once in a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah. A little bit more personable.
Yeah, exactly.
So before we get to the new record,
Sure.
With the last record, how did that finally come about? Getting that record going after like the little bit of time off there.
Let's see. I went through a huge fiasco with Discreet. We got pretty screwed over by some record labels, and I decided to part ways once I finished recording the album with them, and I joined Darkness. And Enfold, they were kind of like Inferi's like brother band. You know, we both started around the same time here in Nashville.
Yeah, I remember seeing both you guys play like local shows in Chattanooga like all the time.
Yeah. So I took the place of Mike Lowe, who was like, you know, their guitar player from back in the day.
Yep.
I took his place and moved back home to Nashville to start touring with those guys. And I just, something in my brain was like, you know, I'm back home now. I kind of just want to start this back up again. And I hit up Mike about hopping on, you know, for second guitar, or, you know, to just collaborate.
Yeah.
He had some material. I had some material. And it just kind of formed from there. We got some of the older members back, and then we got Jack, who was in Soul, to join on it for drums. And it kind of just took form from there. And then when the record came out, a lot of unfortunate things happened. A couple guys in the band lost some family members and had to relocate. Marriage and kids and all that stuff happened. So it ended up being just me and Mike, like almost immediately after the record came out. So,
damn.
Yeah.
So when the record came out, like, was it at least? It seems to me like it was well received, at least with like people that I knew that knew about it. But like, did it do pretty well?
Yeah, it did great. It helped spark the Artisan era.
That's good.
Basically, the Artisan era from the success off of the Path album.
Okay.
So, that's pretty much how that took form. The Artisan era started with the first A Loathing Requiem album, just for me to, like, you know, get it out there. I didn't know what I was doing. But then when Path came out, me and Mike decided to, you know, become partners with it and start something originally for us to just help fund our records. So the Artisan era was just like going to be, you know, me and Mike's projects, you know, whatever records we sold or whatever, we just use that money to make more records, blah, blah, blah. And then it just kind of evolved into like, well, why can't we just help other artists release their stuff as well? And kind of just took a form on its own.
Yeah, to help give back a little bit in a way.
Yeah, man. I mean, for me, with the Artisan era, it's super important to just treat your artists right, man. I'm not trying to, like, you know, take money from the bands and like keep their fucking royalties and all this other shit. For me, it's just like I want to be a part of their music and help, you know, get them out there and help, you know, just help them do something that a lot of labels won't do, you know.
Yeah, we're in a very interesting period right now where, you know, there's bands that are foregoing labels entirely and doing just crowdfunding, and then there's people starting labels kind of like what you're doing that like want to actually help artists more than I guess take advantage of them. Because man, I mean, you know, we've both kind of been involved in music in some way or another, you more than me, but like even I still heard like so many horror stories of bands like getting screwed over on like merch stuff or shit, what do you call it? Like record advances and stuff like that, and just, you know, tour support doesn't exist.
Right. Yeah. And that's pretty shot, you know. Especially how much, you know, a lot of labels take from the band.
Yeah.
It's from my eyes, it's greed and greed alone.
Yeah, that's why I think, like, say whatever you will about Day to Remember, I really think it was good of them to kind of stand up to Victory Records and sue them for all their royalties that they were rightfully owed.
Right.
I think a lot more bands should do that, and it does make me wonder, like, for the future, like, what's going to happen to a lot of record labels, you know?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine, in a few years, a lot of them starting to dissolve.
yeah,
Which is fine with me, honestly. I don't feel like I'm competing with any of them, but
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it would be kind of weird, 10, 20 years down the line when you have, like, those legendary labels like Metal Blade or Relapse that just don't exist anymore, because there's just nobody that wants to sign with them.
right.
But then again,
Yeah.
like, those labels are so big, like, will they ever really go away,
I don't think the big ones will, but the ones in between, like,
Yeah.
they'll probably dissolve. Like, who knows? Artisan era might not survive, but the goal is to, just keep trying to find new ways to make it work. And even if the label were to disappear tomorrow, as much as I would not enjoy that, because I like being able to be a part of, all the musicians and all that stuff. I would still just be able to fall back on my own music,
Yeah. Yeah, you're really passionate about, like, kind of staying involved with music in some way or another, but the label is kind of an extension of that, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So going into this new record, man, like, I assume you had to get, like, almost a new lineup completely for everything?
Yeah. We got the same drummer from Path. We were able to snag him. He has a good job in Texas now, and he's doing really well for himself. So it didn't make sense for him to be able to, like, move back and try to take things to the next level with the band. So we decided, for him to just do this last record with us, and we'll, find another drummer to fill his shoes. And we ended up picking up Joe Schwallier from Koseth and Dawn of Dementia. He's a sick bass player. Completely ridiculous. Super young, super talented. And then the vocalist we have on the new record, his name's Sam Schneider. He plays in a band around here called Abyss Walker.
Okay.
And he was kind of just the obvious pick for around here, because he's definitely like the sickless vocalist that we have in the area, and we wanted guys in the area specifically so we can, like, tighten our live performances up, and not have to fly people out 2 days, 3 days before tour. We wanted to be able to have consistent band practice, and plus it's easier to build relationships, which is still important in a band.
Yep.
When you're touring a lot, it's a little easier to have guys, from out of town come in and do the tour, because spending time with them on tour, getting to know them and all that stuff. But when you're not touring super often, like us right now, it's good to have guys around that you can, build relationships and, know you have each other's backs and all that stuff. So
yeah, so that way, like, when you guys kind of start getting together stuff for the record, you're all, like, on the same page and there's a cohesion level there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with everybody kind of in the fold, when you started writing for the record, how much do you write yourself, and how much does the band kind of input with everything as a whole?
It's been different every record.
Okay.
The first Inferi record was pretty much all me, and I think a couple guys threw in a couple riffs here or there. which is the same thing for The End of an Era.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Mike, we collaborated a bunch. He already had some stuff written, and I had some stuff written, and then we wrote a couple songs together. And on this record, Mike was working on his other project, Oubliette. He was writing for that a lot. So I wrote the majority of this record. And he contributed quite a bit, as well as the bass player. I mean, he completely added so much to the sound. But yeah, it kind of depends. I guess at this point it's situational.
Mm-hmm.
I always try to overwrite. I mean, there's a bunch of material that we didn't even use for this album.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with overwriting.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, this album's like 57 minutes or something like that. Slightly shorter than the last, but there's still plenty to go. I mean, we already got a lot of the next album already written.
Nice. Yeah, it's funny, like, a lot of times when we do research on, like, other bands and when they're writing and recording, we'll read stuff like they're in the studio and they don't even have enough to, like, finish the whole album, so they have to write stuff last minute. So I think overwriting is always smarter than underwriting. You don't want to be unprepared like that.
Yeah. I'm an advocate for never throwing a riff away.
Yeah, because potentially you could always use it later for something else.
Yeah, you can use it for something that's like it fits perfectly there. Like it might not work for what you need right now, but you can go back and listen to it and revamp it, or add other elements to it to fit the narrative for what you're doing at the current time.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, on the last album we had a song called Destroyer.
Yes.
And there's a clean section in the middle of the song that I wrote on bass when I was in like 9th grade.
Really?
So that goes to show.
That's crazy, dude. I think Destroyer is probably my favorite song on that record too, especially that solo in the middle. Jesus.
Oh yeah.
Fuck, man. That thing's a ripper.
Yeah. It's a finger destroyer, that is for sure.
So how long have you been writing stuff for the new record?
I mean, I'd like to say as soon as Path was completed.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's stuff on this record that didn't make it on Path. So it kind of just, there's always a gradient with Inferi records.
Yeah.
But I did take some time to write Acolytes, and then ended up joining Entheos for a little bit, which kind of threw a wrench in the gears of everything. But as soon as I parted ways with Entheos, I was kind of just immediately on that. So I guess in the middle of 2016 was when I was like hitting it pretty hard on the writing for the new album.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted it to come out last year in September, but we ended up getting like a new distributor for the label, and those kind of things take time.
Yeah.
And me and Mike are both extreme perfectionists, so every note needed to be right. So sometimes it takes a little longer than what it's supposed to, but I'm gonna try to keep it on a regular schedule. The only thing that's gonna stand in front of that is the integrity of the music, which I don't want to suffer just for time.
Yeah, and it's always better to kind of like take your time and craft something with a little more patience than to rush it out of there. Like I think I feel like, this is just my personal opinion, but I do feel like there are a lot of bands nowadays that are like more worried about just being on that like album cycle kind of thing, so they rush stuff out as opposed to taking their time.
Right. Well, it's a tricky thing, man, trying to continuously stay relevant and
Yeah.
and get content out. You know, people are
Impatient.
yeah, they're impatient and quick to forget. And you know, I'm grateful that, you know, our band has some super diehard fans, man. And we haven't really gotten ourselves out there, so it's just kind of incredible to me, you know, to have guys, you know, come from a different country over 30 hours away, to one show that you're playing. You know,
Jeez.
that's like, it's pretty insane. So, I'm hoping that, you know, in the future we'll be able to continuously work on new material and get stuff out in a timely manner. I don't want to go 4 years without a record again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I won't have the same kind of interruptions taking place, hopefully, in
So
the future.
you got stuff a little bit more solid with the band now.
Yeah.
So when you're writing a song, I've often wondered, like, how do you kind of craft it, like, as far as like doing the leads and then like the rhythms and then adding in guitar solos? Like, how does that take shape?
It's kind of different for every song.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll just be, you know, just holding the guitar in my hand and try to play a riff and fuck it up and be like, oh shit, that sounded cool. What was, and then go back and reverse engineer what I did. And then all of a sudden, you know, I turn on the computer and the fucking DAW and start recording. And then all of a sudden I have, like, you know, 3 minutes of music somehow. Sometimes, you know, I'll use Guitar Pro. Like if I have you know, a melody or idea of note structures, I'll throw it in Guitar Pro, see how it sounds, learn it, and then start fleshing it out that way. A lot of times, I've learned I usually write the intros to the songs last. For some reason, I just get caught up in the meat of the song and then decide where I want to end it. And then like, oh, how do I start it? You know, then I go to the beginning and then kind of wash over the rest of the song. So, it's different with every song. A lot of times, you know, Mike, I have an idea and he'll get stuck and be like, I don't know what to do here. You know, he'll send me the tracks and then, you know, I'll play off his ideas, and we do that a lot.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Do you, with like your guitar solos, do you always like have those in mind beforehand, or do you kind of like write the solo around like the skeleton of the song you got already?
Not in particular. A lot of times I'll get to a point where like, there's a lot of riffage going on, and you know, it's starting to get a little stale. So it's like, okay, well, I guess this is a good part for either some sort of bridge or solo, and I just, you know, write what I think needs to be under that said solo,
Mm-hmm.
You know, as a placeholder or whatever, and then later I'll go back and, you know, figure out the right chords and scales to, you know, throw over that section. So it's kind of like, you know, the solos usually come last, especially in the recording process. Sometimes when I'm demoing out ideas, I'll throw like an improv solo on the track and let the band hear it. Like, you know, that's not going to be there. Sometimes it stays, sometimes it, you know, it doesn't. And by the time it's time to record the album, it's like, oh, I didn't write all the fucking solos, so now I gotta just like,
oh shit,
do it all at once. So yeah, it's all different, but for the most part, the solos are last.
Okay.
You know, outside of lyrics get written when the songs are basically completed.
And do you
and stuff will happen with the songwriting, but the actual guitar solos, quote unquote, will usually come last.
Okay. And do you also write all the lyrics, or do you kind of let other members take care of that, or is it everybody?
No, it's mostly me and the vocalist. I write a lot of them, particularly on the last album and this album.
Okay.
This is Sam's first album with us, so it was kind of just like, let's see how it works out. But he did a fantastic job with the stuff he wrote. And I definitely think we're going to shoot for, him having more not more control, because I might be controlling, I don't know, but to have more opportunity to write, because by the time he joined the band, there was already so much written, and I had already had a plan for the storyline in the album. And it was just kind of easier for me to just write a bunch of it than have him like fill in gaps and start where I left off or whatever. So in the future, I definitely would like to have Sam do a lot more on the next record.
Okay. So by the time you're all ready to record, you said you have stuff demoed out. Pretty much everything's written and you're ready to go. Ready to go record. How do you go about recording? Do you do it as a live thing, or do you record each instrument separate?
So this is what we do. Mike and I live like 45 minutes apart.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll write. We both have the same DAW, so we use Logic and like Superior Drummer for like demoing drums. So we'll send tracks back and forth with the same tempos, and so we can have the same shit and be on the same page.
Okay.
Once that's done, we get tabs together, so we know what the riffs are, and so Joel can see what's going on and throw his stuff on there, and that way when we record, we have the tabs. We all record separately, or in the future we'll be recording separately. Joel came down and recorded at my place on Revenant, but everything's tabbed out, so we can all just record on our own, not have to pay for studio time. Mike recorded the drums. We flew Jack up here. Mike recorded the drums at the practice space, and that's it. And Sam does recording for other bands and stuff like that. So he has a setup, and everybody's just kind of able to do it, which I think is important in 2018 for a musician to be able to have control over when they want to put a riff on tape, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing that's kind of interesting about like the current state and like of where technology's at right now, because even having to go in the studio is not really necessary anymore. You can record everything at home if you have like the right equipment and the right stuff. I mean, it's not a problem anymore.
Yeah, which I think is cool. For me personally, since I don't make money off of recording bands.
Yeah.
So why would I give a shit? But I think it's cool to be able to sit at home and focus in on the music that needs to be recorded and not worried about, well, shit, we only have X amount of hours paid for, so it's it opens up a lot of doors for being able to rework things and not have to be stuck with something that you're not really satisfied with. And then when it's all done, you can just send your DIs to someone who knows how to make it sound good. You know what I mean? And that, to me, I think is extremely valuable. And I think a lot of people still overlook that for some reason. I think it's overwhelming for people maybe, or can't teach a old dog new tricks or some shit. But especially in a metal band, it's ridiculous to think that, it makes sense for you to go record crazy technical music at someone's studio for a couple hours and just let yourself be happy with it. I mean, maybe it's just me, but
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's down to like what the band is kind of looking for to get out of their sound.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not knocking it, but
No, of course.
it's and it's most likely just me being a controlling asshole or something.
No, I think it's just what works for you and what you're more comfortable with, and it makes perfect sense.
Right.
So, how long did it take to record each instrument until you had the full thing ready to go?
Not too long. I mean, I think guitars were done, just in a matter of weeks, between, us trying to practice for, we did a fest called Louisville Death Fest in September.
Mm-hmm.
So for us to like practice and, try to get all that situated, it kind of went in a timely manner. Joel came down here and like completely destroyed his bass tracks in like a day and a half or something.
Nice.
Which made me like feel super bad. Just he's so fucking good. But yeah, it usually don't take that long. A couple weeks. And that's with like, going in there and making sure everything's right and in its right place and all that stuff, and making sure everybody's happy with, what's been recorded.
So were there any challenges or anything that didn't go right while recording, or was everything like super smooth?
I think this album's been the smoothest it's ever been.
That's good.
One, because we recorded everything this time, which is another perk. You don't have to wait, 10 fucking months for drum tracks,
Yeah.
Which we did on Path. We had to wait I think it was like 8 to 10 months we waited on some fuckface to, get our drums edited and whatever to get it to us to mix.
Jesus.
Yeah. And then when we did get it, they weren't edited at all, and they sound like shit. So, that was a huge setback. And this time we didn't have any of that. It was just a matter of making sure that the music was completed, in the way that we want it to be.
Well, that's good, man. It sounds like things are running a lot smoother. The record's going to be fucking awesome, and it's going to be good to see what happens to you guys in 2018 and beyond.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. It's finally good to, it's good to finally have a full lineup.
Yeah, I can imagine that's like a huge burden lifted off of you a little bit.
Despite on this next tour we're doing with Ultra Beast, we have a couple fill-ins, but I'm hoping we get more opportunities that make it a lot easier for people to leave their jobs to tour.
Yeah.
And so we'll see how it goes. It's definitely becoming a well-oiled machine at this point.
Well, cool, man. Where can everybody find the record to go pre-order it? We'll obviously link all of our stuff in our website so people can find it, but just so when they listen to it, they can go fucking buy it.
You can find it on our Bandcamp, inferi.bandcamp.com.
Okay.
And then you can find it at either the artisanera.com or the artisanerastore.com. And with our new distro, our albums should be in stores pretty soon. So.
And you guys are doing CDs and vinyl and all that stuff.
CD. Yeah, there's a couple vinyls left. They're pretty much all sold out at this point. There's a few
that's
left.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So how did Trevor get to do guest vocals on the new album?
I just kind of just asked him if he'd do it. We've hung out plenty of times. I went on tour with the guys when I was jamming with Entheos, and I've known Trevor for a while before that, just at shows. We have a mutual respect for each other, I think. And yeah, it was just kind of like hey, dude, this would be sick if you'd be down to do this. And he was definitely down to do it. I don't know. It goes back to, just, building relationships and friends and stuff like that,
Yeah, he's one of those guys in metal, kind of like Max Cavalera, that are just like so cool with everybody, and they're down to do anything, and he's just a genuinely like good dude.
Dude, that's so pivotal for you to be that way with your fans and other people in the industry.
Yeah.
Just be a fucking good person.
Yeah,
So,
I've run into a few people like throughout touring that are like they stick too hard to like their whole, I guess, shtick or whatever that their band's going for, instead of just being a genuine person, and it's like really, really off-putting.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely a pleasure to honor to have him on the record. We also have James Malone from Artisan doing a guest solo.
Yeah, I was about to ask if there was any other guests on there, so that's fucking cool.
Yeah, and so for James from Artisan and Trevor from Black Dahlia, those are two bands that like inspired the sound of Inferi.
Mm-hmm.
So it just I don't know. It's kind of really fucking cool for me to have them on the album.
Is there any like dream guests that you'd love to have on a record?
Dream guests? You know what? At this point, I'm not sure. I had Christian Usner do a solo on the first A Loathing Requiem. Hannes Grossman played drums on the second A Loathing Requiem album. So those are two badass dudes from Necrophagus that so yeah, I don't know, man. I mean there's probably some guys out there that I'm just like on the spot, can't think, but yeah, man, I'm just I'm happy with what I got for right now, that's for sure.
Well, cool, man. Dude, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, this was fun.
Yeah. I always love like kind of getting in depth with like how records are made and everything like that. It's part of why I like doing this. So I'm looking forward to it coming out. That's for damn sure. Good luck on your tours, and we'll definitely be like sharing and linking everything over the next month so people can go find it.
Oh yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
Be excellent to each other.
And party on, dude!